Hello everyone, this is Ignacio Dulin with my applied project presentation, and I want to begin with this cool picture of English as a second language. My population of students are ELL or ESL students whom I wanted to support because I was once a fellow ESL or ELL student and sometimes feel as though I will always be an ESL student. My high school serves about 9 to 12, serves 9 to 12 graders. By our teacher contract, our class size is no more than 35 to 1 per classroom, and 80% of our students attending are receiving free or reduced lunch. Students for enrollment consists of about 79% Hispanic, 6.7% white, followed by 7% Asian, 3.9% Filipino, and about 2.5% Black or African American. Within the group, 82.9% are socially economically disadvantaged, 22.2% are English learners, and 14.4% are homeless. My assessment needs, I looked at the English ELL are underrepresented in STEAM fields in college as well as the workforce. The area of concern is the lack of English learners in STEAM classes in high school. And of course, the myth that ELL students can never learn math or any kind of science is very ridiculous. EL students need equitable access to STEAM fields to eliminate misconceptions, any false narratives, stereotypes, and myths. According to Funk and Parker, through the PEW Research Center, Hispanics comprise 16% of the U.S. workforce, but only 7% of the STEAM workforce. Despite their linguistic, cognitive, and social potential, many ELs, who account for more than 9% of enrollment in grades K through 12 in U.S. schools, are struggling to meet requirements for academic success, and their prospects for success in post-secondary education in the workforce are jeopardized as a result, in ASIM 2017. Bailey, Maher, and Wilkins in 2018 also reported increases in the achievement gap with grades levels from AP science assessment scores and even larger discrepancies between EL and non-ELs than those reported for mathematics. The science performance of ELs in 2015 on average was 37 points lower than that of non-ELs at grades 4 and 47 points lower at grades 8 and 12. And now these pictures here, I wanted to compare how my school compared to those of the state of California. I was able to see the test scores for the past 7 years. 2020 scores are missing due to COVID-19 pandemic. The 2021 test was not mandatory and missing in some districts, and my high school opted out of taking the test. As you can see in figures 1A and 1B, I noticed that the overall score in the state of California when it comes to math scores in standard met or exceeded decreased by 6.35% from 2019 to 2022, while at the same time my high school decreased only by 3%. Now, there's nothing really to celebrate because only 33.38% in the state of California met or exceeded the standards. In comparison, my high school only had 15.75% of students meet or exceed math standards. Now, this is trouble because if I look at figure 2A, in the state of California, Hispanic students met or exceeded math standards at 36% in the year 2022. However, in figure 2B, my high school only has 10.41%. Now, the achievement gap seems to be widening when I look at whites and Asian student standards. 75% to 8 of Asian students met or exceeded the math standards, and white students are at 61.35%. At my high school, Asian students are at 50%, while white students are at 30%. Now, looking at figures 3A and 3B in regards to gender, I also noticed a large discrepancy from the state scores of California to my high school from the year 2022. In the state of California, males are at almost 35% meets or exceeds, and females are at 32%. In comparison to my high school, only 17.47% of males and 13.46% of females are scoring at a meet or exceeds in math standards. And looking at the survey results from my EL students, my students need support in all esteem classes. It is very sad, troubling to say that, at least when I look at my high school compared to the entire state of California. Now, I joined this school in 2021-2022 school year, and I can see that not only do my EL students need support in math, but many of my students are scoring low in math standards. Now, my intervention, what I want to do is I will start with my student survey, STEAM, and the survey questions are in English and Spanish, and I want to just do the survey as a baseline. As you can see, this is not a test, it's just an opinion survey. I want to see and it's very anonymous. I want them to be as open with their responses as possible. My intervention, strategies that I would use to implement and to improve STEAM motivation and achievement with my EL students. I would use culture responsive teaching and leadership skills, such as connecting students' cultural background to instruction and valuing culture diversity as an asset in the learning environment. I would also provide instructional materials in multiple languages and implement A flipped classroom with prep materials in the English learner's language, is mostly in Spanish. And I would have students look at the materials beforehand, will give them a greater understanding of the material. I would also use instructional practices that support my EL students' understanding, such as providing hand-on demonstrations, visual clues to reinforce spoken or written words, graphic organizers, increasing wait time when asking questions, allowing students to seek clarification, encouraging English learners' participation in social and academic discussions, and focusing on content of students' response, and not only in pronunciation or grammatical errors. I will support my English learner also with technology. Students need to have smartphones such as word walls, scanning vocabulary lists, audio directions, using technology to facilitate the language translation, such as visual dictionaries, translation apps. So just those visual clues, I would group those students based on their learning styles to enhance student collaboration with the learning style that fits the activity at hand. And this will allow students to collaborate with each other and emphasize the importance of growing, strengthening, and utilizing these skills to support their understanding of the material both in class and at home. And this information will help a foundational part of the learning that sets up students for success across the board. STEAM uses the subjects in purposeful ways, aiming to offer experiences that show the real-world application of the content. Now, STEAM, it takes that approach and adds the art and comprehensive learning approach, which can be done in projects like the one I've adapted called Arts and Entertainment Project, as an assessment for students to show their mastery. And this focus on my students' innate curiosity and desire to ask questions, explore, and solve problems. And of course, I would end with exit tickets on the Google Forms just to evaluate my intervention. I want to make sure that the intervention is not seen as some sort of test or assessment, but I also want to hear their thoughts. And I want to thank you for listening. Oh, I'm sorry. And I will end with my intervention with the same survey to see if I get my interesting data and value from there. And again, these questions are English and Spanish. Thank you for your time.